Hello everyone, today I'll be doing a solo master Nightfall run, the Glassway with Warlock. For my subclass, I'll be using Shadebinder. Here are the mods and fragments I'll be using in this video. For my pulse rifle, I'll be using Stay Frosty. Next, I'll be using Lemonarch with Catalyst. Heavy, I'll be using Fallen Guillotine. For my helmet, I'll be using the Stag with 10 Resilient, Sword Ammo Finder, and High Energy Fire. Next, I'll be using Anti-Barrier Pulse Rifle, Bow Reloader, Precision Charge, and 10 Resilience. Next, I'll be using Void Damage with Resilience with the Artifact mod to get minor resilience on all elements except stasis. And then I'll be using Counter Charge with 10 Resilience. Next will be Bountiful Wells with Sword Scavenger and 10 Resilience. Next will be Solar Operative Elemental Light with the Artifact mod to stagger Overload Champions with Stasis and Void Grenades. I apologize for that, I was just trying to do a cool flip. Ta-da! For this week, I am going for Stasis Warlock. I was gonna go for Voidwalker, but I'm still, I've been using Voidwalker so many times. I decided to just try Stasis for this season. And mainly I'm gonna use Lemonarch with Fallen Guillotine to deal with the Overload Champions at the final boss. Mainly I am going to be spamming as much turrets as I can, and for the lightning crystals it is bugged. I'm not 100% sure, but you don't really get fast recharge on stasis. It did last season, but for this one stasis is not really working. Arc, I am not 100% sure if it does work. I mean if it does work, Arc subclass, then go for it, but I would recommend Titan over Warlock if I have to be really honest. But mainly Lemonarch, just clear all the ads as much as you can. Now there's one thing I will mention. So I didn't realize, and I was just doing the tests. This was my second run, and there was some good and bad things. And I was using my turret. I did not know that the stasis turret can stagger Overload Champion. That I did not know, and it's extremely amazing because now for this season you can stagger Overload Champions with your stasis turret. You can also use a build with the gauntlets to have 2 stasis turrets. Now I didn't use it for this video because it is attrition, and I thought just using the stack would be a little bit better. So I am going to clear down the Overload Champion, then push towards the Barrier Champion for it to spawn and the ads. I did throw my Stasis turret from the left side so it can deal with the minions. It could do all the dirty work. So what I'm going to do over here is just do DPS at the baby servitor or Barrier Champion. Then I'm going to spam Fallen Guillotine or Heavy Sword just to do DPS and then just make my way. For this Glassway, there is a lot of Overload Champions, so just be aware of your surroundings, and we do have attrition. The good news is not togetherness like last week. Togetherness is my most hated mod ever. But mainly for this area, you will want to deal with the Overload Champion. And I did not notice that the turret can stagger the Overload Champion. I did not know until the boss fight. Yeah, I know I was a little late, I'm sorry, but my radar was broken of just seeing if the mods work or not. Because when I was doing this run, I was very sleepy and I can't really see well, so I had to get prescription glasses. So it's just a lot of things going on. The beginning of a new year, 2023. When I do deal with the final boss, I prefer to use my super mainly to clear the ads. I don't really focus on the bigger champion because for this area, the most biggest threat, even for GMs, is the ads. They throw grenades, they shoot arc, even though it's void burn, they can still melt you. So you have to be very careful with them, especially on GM. I know Master is different, but you know, it's just mini advice. Clear the ads, then deal with the bigger champion last. Are you gonna throw my turret far from distance from the left side? And this is when things are awkward. So there is supposed to be an Overload champion. And it says here I defeated the Overload champion. And I didn't even know. So the stasis turret killed the Overload champion and I didn't even know. You know, I was trying to figure out what happened to the Overload champion. You'll notice I'll be looking around for the Overload champion, but I wasn't paying attention. So you can see I definitely need glasses because now I can't see very well from my right eye. So there's proof there, even though it didn't show 100%, that the stasis turret can stagger Overload champions and it can take down the Overload champion for you, even when you're far away. I mean, I think that's awesome. Like, ditch the Void Walker. Who needs a Void Walker when you got stasis turrets? You can make a build with firepower or with the gauntlets, right? And there's one thing I do want to mention, but I'll mention the boss fight for the other exotic in case you don't have recovery. So once you do take down the boss, you will pass the rock, and then you can deal with the ads from the left side. Now for this build, if you guys are wondering, I am not doing the shards build. I am just going for the higher energy fire with counter charge. So you can see this, the stasis turrets are a little bit more aggressive. So when you do freeze the enemy, they can seek and freeze other enemies, which is completely perfect because you can overload all the ads and they do minus 10% damage on you, and especially for Wyverns. So I know usually making a firepower build or having your grenade build, you would need to have the stasis shards. But for this video, I didn't do that. I want to focus more of a counter charge high energy fire method. And maybe I could have used a loosened blade method as well. Or elemental charge with a stasis sword. But you know, there's just so many options with stasis Warlock, especially for this season. So once I do deal with the bigger champion, you can see I am going to top just to deal with the shanks. So there's going to be a couple of ads, and I just want to use the stasis turret just to do all the dirty work. I mean, you can also just push to the left side, well, to the right side. I didn't do that in this video. I know I could rush and go and move and not stay on the top mini roof. I know you can do that, but I didn't for this video, not so much. So there's going to be a couple of drags. You just spam Lemon Arc since it does have overload mod. No, I haven't fully tested out. It's really hard to test it out on Master. If it was GM, I'll fully test it out. But I remember last season I wasn't able to stagger overload champions. You had to do precision shots with critical headshots as well. So full draw and then critical precision shots. Now for this season, I'm not 100% sure. I'm assuming it's the same thing. But then this is when stasis turret comes in, where The stasis turret can stagger the overload champions, and you can use Lemon Arc, and it's not going to regenerate the overload champion's health. So this is something that's really interesting, and I do highly recommend you try it out. And probably for grandmasters, this might be the meta for stasis warlock, especially with the stasis turret build. That now we can stagger overload champions, and then with Lemon Arc, it can be amazing. It can be the meta. Not 100% sure. I mean, the season just started, so that's just me assuming. And I know the meta right now is the hunter with the machine gun. Yes, I know that. But we're not on warlock. I mean, we're not on hunter, we're on warlock. Alright, so for this part, we're going to be claiming the plate. Since I am on warlock and I do have healing drift and the stag, I just decided to just claim the plate until it goes 100%. Now during the solo, you don't really get, well, you don't get snipers. I would say 99.9 or 0% you won't get snipers on your solo run. There is this 1% where you can get snipers, but that is extremely rare. It only happened to me once many years ago, well, when Glassway was first released, and now I never see it to work ever again. Unless you're in the fire team, then you'll deal with the snipers. So once we do claim the plate, we do have to clear down a couple of ads and the overload champion. Now if I was using a linear fusion, I would switch to my heavy right now and then do DPS at the overload champion. But I am using counter charge, so I don't really need a linear since I can just spam Lemon Arc and have plus 20% DPS. During this area, I did use my super, and I was just focusing on clearing ads. What I should have done over here is just focus on the shank. The reason why is because it's the only one that has the solar shield. That's one. Two, it loves to float around and make you extremely frustrated, especially on a GM. They can be a nightmare, they can melt you. They're not fun to deal with on grandmasters. On master, not so much, depending of your power level, by the way. It really depends. Right now I'm 1607. And even, with high resilience, and this shank, this mini major isn't really doing so much damage on my warlock. But I will advise to take down the shank first and then deal with the ads. So once you take down the solar shank, then you just pop your healing drift and then you can just spam your turret. Since the turret now has the ability to overload anything. Since now we found out, and I found out late on my video, you can stagger overload champions with the stasis turret. So once you deal amount of ads, then all the snipers will jump down. Now just be aware of your surroundings, make sure you deal with the snipers. If not, just throw your turret. Now I did have this barrier champion push, so I staggered and then used fallen guillotine. Once I used fallen guillotine, then I just clear down the remaining of the ads. Just be very careful with the snipers, be very careful of the vandals especially. I did pull back because I forgot I'm kind of low, not low, but low on heavy. So I went back to get some heavy bricks. Now we're gonna actually go to the boss fight. Isn't it just so fun? We get to abuse stasis turrets on Overload champions. I really despise this Nightfall, but because I know all the spawns of the Overload champions and the Wyverns, it isn't really so bad. Now the key for Glassway is knowing the spawns, and you have to conquer your fears on the Wyverns. That's the main thing. You must conquer your fears or it will get you. I know it sounds silly, but I'm really serious about it. So first things first, Overload champions. Now sometimes Overload champions behave very differently. Sometimes they don't go to the tunnel from the right side. They mainly go from the middle or sometimes from the far left side. So for this footage, I did throw my stasis and I was waiting for the Overload champion to push. There will be the boss that will move around, and there is this baby Hydra which we have to babysit, which I will talk about that very soon. So I was just hiding behind the wall, and then the Overload champion was walking all the way from the left side. So as I said before, the Overload champions are completely RNG. Sometimes they go from the left side, right, or middle. Or they just teleport randomly. And they do teleport. I know that for a fact because I have seen them teleport randomly in the tunnel and bigger champions and Wyverns. So here I was being extremely reckless. I was just trying to deal with the Overload champion. The stasis turret saved me and I didn't even know. As I said before, this was my second run. I was testing it. I didn't think that the stasis turret can stagger Overload champions with the new artifact mod. That I didn't know, and I just wanted to use stasis Warlock because I just got a little fed up of being Voidwalker all the time. And I have been, especially for leveling up, for just getting things done and abusing Devour. Let's just be honest, Devour is really good on Warlock. So now I am going to do DPS on the baby adorable Hydra. It's so adorable. Now we're gonna spawn the 2 remaining Overload champions, depending how much DPS you do at the Hydra, mini Hydra. So I am going to take down one of the Overload champions, and then I am just looking for the second one. So I am just trying to see where is the Overload champion. That's the first thing you must know. And you have to be careful with the baby Hydra, which they can melt you on GM's masters, not so much depending of your power level. So I did once defeat the Overload champion, and now we can get rid of this Hydra since I am already fed up of babysitting it. But I'm not even exaggerating. We actually have to babysit this Hydra throughout this entire boss fight. And we have like around 13 champions in one room, an entire boss fight. And it could be a little bit frustrating. Especially if you don't know the spawns or the Wyverns. This Nightfall can be a nightmare. Can be very frustrating, especially for players who are new to Glassway, who are new to Nightfalls, who are new to grandmasters. Now, one thing I will mention this, which I didn't mention in my last season video, is the reason why I use Lemonarch is because I can shoot the orange shield, so you can actually do damage to the shield. You don't have to face on the boss. Of course, the damage isn't the best, but it is good enough. Especially to stay safe on grandmasters. If we had to think about that, it can be a lifesaver. Now we're gonna deal with the adorable, dangerous Wyverns. Mainly, I took down one of the Wyverns from the left side and one will be from the right side. They always move from the middle. The second one always moves from the right side to the middle of the map, the middle door. And for the key for that part is always take down the left side Wyvern fast and then deal with the middle Wyvern right away, because the middle one sometimes can have a mind of its own where it doesn't walk to the middle and then just teleports in the tunnel like randomly and then it two-shots you. Of course, for master version, they are completely nerfed a little bit, especially with the resilience. So right now for master, I would say they 4-shot you, maybe 5, depending on your resilience and your power level. But I know for master it is a little different. They can 2-shot you, so just be aware of that. Now we're going to deal with the 2 remaining barrier champions. Now everyone's different. I like to take down the Wyverns, babysit the Hydra, and then deal with the 2 barrier champions. Once I do that, then I deal with the baby Hydra to do DPS, so I can spawn in the 2 remaining Wyverns. And of course, there'll be 2 additional barrier champions. For me, it's the safest. Everyone's different. I'm mainly doing the grandmaster method. The master method of me rushing will be just taking down the Wyverns, do as much DPS at the baby Hydra, and then deal with the 4 champions in one go. For me, I didn't do it in this video. I mean, I could, because I have the stasis turret. I could do that, but I didn't. I was just going for the grandmaster strat. And now I'm going to be dealing with the Wyverns. So mainly for this one, depending how much DPS you are doing for the Wyverns, for the baby Hydra, you will have to immediately take down the Wyverns and always make sure you count. And there's 2 for this section, or this phase, mini phase. So once we do deal with the Wyverns, the cute little birds, or Vex, now we get to get rid of this Hydra since I am fed up of babysitting it. So now I'm going to be dealing with the bigger champions. Now the pulse rifle is the one from the Dawning. I think it's called Stay Frosty. I know it sounds silly, but the weapon's actually good. Okay, I know everyone's talking about the other pulse rifle, but this one you can just get it from Dawning, and it has the amazing adaptive perk, which is amazing on grandmasters. You gotta try it out. Please try it out. It will save so much time, especially on trying to switch weapons on console. It is a lifesaver. Try it out. I will put a dim loadout because I know people are asking like, Blitz, where's the loadout? I want to copy. Which is okay. I don't mind. I don't mind. So now we're going to be dealing with more overload champions. So later on, oh god, are you serious? This overload champion bugged a bit. So we're dealing with overload champions. I am just making sure to bait the overload champions so they can walk to the middle of the door. And this is mainly the strat for grandmasters. Mainly this is what I do. And this is basically what I did on my hunter and then what I did on my titan for the storm grenades build. So once we deal with the overload champions, then we need to do DPS at the Hydra. So as I said before, you don't have to go face to face on the boss. You can just shoot the shield, the orange shield with Lemon Arc. You can poison it until it will spawn the next phase. So the next phase is actually 2 more of the overload champions. So just be aware of that. And make sure you make the overload champion move to the middle of the tunnel. Because I know people would prefer to go to the other room, but I feel like this room where I just stay to the left side is the safest. Not the safest, but easier to deal with the upload champions, since there is no cheese to skip it. So now I'm going to be dealing with the upload champions. I realized that the turret can stagger champions. That's why I put the stasis turret there. So I do recommend to put the stasis on that specific spot right there. And this is me realizing, oh, so it can stagger upload champions with the artifact mod with the stasis grenades, well, the turrets for Warlock. I was quite surprised. Probably something that I would recommend you take advantage, especially for this season. You know, I might as well just ditch Voidwalker and then just spam stasis turret. I mean, don't get me wrong. You can see proof here that the stasis turret can stagger overload champions. This is a big deal. I can't wait to abuse this on grandmasters. Especially with a better build. Like a much better build. I mean, this build is good. It's not so bad. This is more of a survivability stasis warlock build. I know that you can use the stasis turret build with firepower, with, you know, a lot of mods, with elemental mods. I mean, this one is pretty good because I really like the fact that they have the counter charge and you can do 20% more damage every time you stagger upload champion, which is a big plus. So it really depends of your playstyle, what you prefer. I mean, there's just a lot of things going on for this season with the artifact mods. So now we're going to be dealing with the last remaining Wyverns. Well, mainly 4. So I am going to be spamming Lemonarch right now. I do have Charge of Light, 20% more damage. So once I deal with that Wyvern, I'm going to make sure I take down this Wyvern. Now you could also use your super if the Wyverns are giving you trouble. Now I didn't use my super here. I try my best not to use it for this video because I do want to show players of how you deal with the Wyverns. And I don't think I used my super until the last Wyvern. I think I did. I'm not 100% sure. I don't 100% remember at the moment. But I was trying my best to deal with these Wyverns without my super. Just to show how it works. Because there's times for grandmasters where you don't have your super and you need to rely on your movement. And you have to see where the Wyvern is. And you have to hear the footsteps as well. For me, that's what I usually do. Now, luckily, the barrier champions didn't teleport in the tunnel. They usually do from the left side of the tunnel. They did it in this video, so I was quite happy. So now I am just trying my best to deal with this Wyvern. You can see he can melt you. You have to be extremely careful. So when things like this happen, I do recommend you use your super. I did use my super in this part. Might as well, since the Wyvern was being a little bit... wasn't cooperating with me that much. Now we're going to be dealing with 4 barrier champions. So they're all huddled in the middle of the map, which is lucky me. Because this is really rare for the barrier champions to all be huddled up, all cuddly. Because usually one of the barrier champions is always with the girlfriend of the boss. I mean, it's just always clingy. Always to the side to the boss, which can be annoying. So once I deal with these barrier champions, you can just use your stasis turret and then just do a combo with Lemonarch, or even better, with a pulse rifle. I was being a little reckless here. You know, I was just being very greedy with DPS. I just wanted to get it done. You can see I'm just trying my best to rush over here. I could have taken down the barrier champion right away, but I didn't. So now I'm going to be dealing with this barrier champion, and hopefully we can deal with the remaining 3. Well, 2 more. So there's always going to be this last champion where they just love to hide. Now, because the stasis turret was freezing it, it didn't move. And I was pulling back a bit, and the reason why I pulled back is I saw the shield of the boss. So I pulled back. You know, this is the beard champion that always huddles with the girlfriend. And it can be extremely annoying on GMs. So now I'm going to be dealing with the last remaining barrier champion. Hopefully we can take him down. And I did use my super because I was getting extremely impatient. I mean, this boss was just being extremely... Well, this champion was not cooperating. And it always likes to huddle with the boss. All the time. It is extremely annoying. Now, I know people will say you can tag them and get platinum. Well, I tried that. It doesn't really work. I wouldn't really rely on it 100%. But if you don't really care about platinum rank, then just do DPS at the boss and then just forget about the 4 barrier champions. So now I'm just gonna spam Lemonarch. I'm gonna do a mini time skip for this. So basically, you just use Lemonarch, you just shoot the shield of the boss, and then you'll be able to complete the Master Nightfall. Overall, Stasis Warlock is awesome. I like it. And I like the fact that you can abuse the Stasis turret to stagger overload champions. So I highly recommend you try it out. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.